Stefon Diggs making his way to Texas from Buffalo, which, by the way, I didn't think about it until right now. How much is he going to enjoy the difference in where he is playing? All right, you went from playing in Minnesota, I'm sure a lovely place, to Buffalo, probably a great place. Both of those cold. Both of those are cold. Welcome to Houston, dog. Like, well, welcome to this great state of Texas, right? Training camp, I imagine, is going to be something very different for him than it has been in previous years. And I mean, yes. And then also, there are some thoughts when it comes to it, like the way that he likes to kick it. And Houston might just be a little bit more his speed than the nice humble towns of Buffalo and Minnesota, respectively. Or and I guess what is that?
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis is the word I was looking for. Thank you, sir. Yes.
Although
Houston,
they have boat rides,
just a different speed.
And Vikings will have a boat ride. Look it up.
Just a different speed. But obviously he gets traded to Houston, and this is a big time deal that gets made with a name that a lot of us know. And with that being the case, for the win, USA Today put together an interesting article of 5 other players that could be traded this month, just in the same way that Stefon Diggs was
going into the draft.
And so with that being the case, I was like, this is interesting. And they start with a name that makes sense. Shout out to the 682. 49ers wide receiver Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they have been figuring out what to do with him when it comes to, like, extension talks. And
forever.
In the same way that Stefon, or maybe not exactly the same way, but in a similar way that Stefon Diggs had kind of been putting some subliminals out there on maybe some level of displeasure with the organization. Aiyuk has been making it very apparent on social and elsewhere that he wants his money. He feels like he deserves a good level of money, and he is a high-level player. He's been a big part of that offense and what helps them be as versatile as they have been. And he's not trying to be paid small money. So maybe, just maybe, the Niners look up and they go, let's see if we can trade him, get big-time draft capital back, and kind of move this on to another level. The possible landing spots that USA Today puts together: the Jacksonville Jaguars, Baltimore Ravens.
I was going to say Baltimore.
Is that the one that you like the most out of that? That's
what I was thinking. He seemed like a Baltimore kind of guy. And they could use another wide receiver.
Absolutely. A big-time wide receiver in that way. The Chiefs is an interesting one. I would find it interesting if they would go and trade for a guy that they'd have to pay in that way, because it seems like they have already made the decision that that's not where they're going to use their salary
cap.
Right.
When they sent Tyreek Hill packing, that's when they said, we don't pay wide receivers around here. That's when we knew.
That would feel like a real reversion on the thought process, even though I feel like it was successful that one year, and I mean, obviously, they were able to win again.
Don't get me wrong. I'm with you, but they think this is where organizations think, well, we got the quarterback. And
right.
This is what Green Bay was doing to Aaron Rodgers, which is why he was unhappy his last few years. They would get rid of his wide receivers. They would never get an extension. He goes, what? It was driving him nuts. That's why one of the reasons when he went to the New York Jets first of all, to stay in Green Bay, he said, bring back Randall Cobb. They did. Then when he went to the Jets, let me bring Randall Cobb. And they did.
Yeah.
Because he's just tired of going through wide receivers he don't know.
He might come back up or something. Someone close to him. He might come back up over the course of this. Another guy who might just possibly be traded this month in the same way that Stefon Diggs was. How about Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins?
That's another guy, because they can't pay all those wide receivers.
No, and I mean he's on the tag as of right now, but that's something where
let's just hold it down until the negotiations fall apart and then they trade him.
Right, and I mean maybe they go as far as just kind of keeping him there, but he's requested a trade reportedly, and I mean maybe you decide to just, hey, it doesn't matter, you're going to play out the season, and they keep the likes of Jamar Chase with him, so they have that triumvirate of Burrow, Chase, and Higgins. But, I mean, if you're thinking about the future and not losing him for nothing, unless you really are in a different place where you're going to franchise tag him a second time, like, it might behoove you to trade him right and now. Get that whatever
the draft, because that's when all these wide receivers come up.
How about this as potential landing spots for T. Higgins? The Cardinals, the Lions, and the Chargers. Is there one of those three that intrigues you, or maybe another one for T. Higgins?
The Lions.
Okay, like giving that offense, even though they've had Amon-Ra, they might not. It doesn't feel like they've had a guy that could be like a true 1A type guy that could. Yeah,
have a dominant X.
I could see that. Especially for a team that's already geared themselves up to a place where they've played really well in the NFC. They obviously made it to the championship game.
This is how you fortify your roster. That's what you do when you Mom, calm down.
Look, man, we
You fortify
talk
your
about
roster
being
when
instantly
you,
angry.
When you really feel like you got a chance, you fortify that roster.
Yeah, and the Lions are in that place where they could very reasonably get to that but you get to him, you have to pay him money, and that's I think that's where it gets interesting. He's ready to get his payday. How about this Saints cornerback Marshon Lattimore?
He getting old.
Yeah, he's getting older, and he could be a cap casualty like the Saints. I mean, maybe for the entirety I've been alive.
They've been in cap hell every time, and they kick the can down the road.
They have played a crazy amount of kick can. I'm surprised that they're still above water, but they're going to need to do some figuring out. And Marshon Lattimore is, when he's healthy, a very good cornerback, and there could be a team that really needs that help. How about the Lions again, the Raiders, or the Colts? Any of those teams really sound interesting.
The only connection with the Lions I could see is their defensive coordinator used to play for the Saints back in the day. Aaron Glenn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Who, by the way, still hangs out in Dallas. His wife's family is from Dallas, and he still owns that Williams Chicken over there off of 67 in Redford.
Does he now?
Yes, he does.
Did not realize that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And someone on the text line said, give Bryce Young T. Higgins. Honestly, not a bad way to go about it if you're the
right.
Just give him somebody that you could chuck it up there too. We've seen multiple quarterbacks get to a place where there is a jump in their capability and their output just by giving them a stable wide receiver that they feel comfortable in.
Productivity.
And I mean, I could see
a
that.
Veteran.
Not a bad idea.
That's what you're looking for, a veteran. It's hard when you have two rookies, a quarterback and a wide receiver. You know what I mean? And they're both learning at the same time.
Okay. But maybe you're like leaning towards the Lions for Marshon Lattimore is what you're thinking?
No, I'm just saying that's the only connection I see.
Yeah.
I don't lean any way with that.
I'm interested in the tough part about it with that Raiders team is I don't know how good that offense can be. It seems like they're probably going to end up trying to see if they can get something in the draft, maybe, because that quarterback room is
weak.
But the defense is solid. It's a really good defense with
I love the coach.
And so I think, and the Colts is kind of an interesting thing as well when you talk about just how good that team was without having foundational pieces like Richardson, almost called Robertson. And so yeah, that could be interesting. This is where your Cowboys make an appearance as a potential landing spot.
Don't tease me.
For wide receiver from the Jets, Allen Lazard.
I don't see it.
Not
Why?
interested in it at all.
No. Why?
It
makes no sense. They're not paying anybody down here.
I don't. Well, I mean, he's not making. I'll have to double check. I don't know that he's making big money, but
they'd be better off just drafting a wide receiver. It's a lot of wide receivers this draft.
Quite possibly. But the question then becomes how many of your draft picks are you going to utilize in various places? I mean, look, we know the Cowboys. I don't know that this makes
just
a ton of
they
sense
cut
for them
Michael
to make a
Gallup
trade.
doesn't mean they're going to go get a veteran wide receiver somewhere.
Right, but veteran wide receiver, clearly not going to be.
That makes too much sense, Reg, for this group.
I don't know. Yeah,
it makes too much sense for this organization.
Cowboys are slotted here, but Ravens and Steelers are other teams that are put up there.
Steelers.
And I don't know that the Ravens would want his caliber. It feels like they would need somebody a little bit higher up. I know Zay Flowers has been good. Rashad Bateman has been solid, but they kind of need somebody who's going to fill that place where maybe if they're not a 1A, maybe like a 1B type player to where you have a little bit of dominance in there. And I don't know Allen Lazard fits in that quite the same place. I could maybe see it with the Steelers. This is fun. How about Jets quarterback Zach Wilson, right? Another Jets player. I don't know who would necessarily want him, but an opportunity for like a backup quarterback.
Watch him wind up in Las Vegas because quarterback room's weak.
That's interesting. I feel like, but they already have a couple of those types of guys. I think that if they add anybody else, it's going to be a young guy. But with that being the case, the possible landing spots that lined up, and I don't know. The Niners, which I don't know, would the Niners then be trying to become the home for wayward quarterbacks that need a place to try and rehabilitate? Like, you remember how Nick Saban with Alabama for a while was the place where if you were a college football head coach that needed to rehabilitate, you would just go be on his staff.
Yeah. You just make you a coordinator.
The Niners doing a little bit of that recently, right? When you bring in Sam Darnold, maybe they bring in your man Zach Wilson, put him as the backup, let him sit there and kind of ruminate on the good vibes and get the good juju on him, the good smell of being with the Niners, and then ship off to somewhere else.
Oh, I don't know if San Francisco is the place for him because Let's see. Jimmy G liked the porn stars, but he likes the MILFs. And they got MILFs in New York, but not in San Francisco. Well, maybe they do.
I feel like they might have some in the general,
But are they
general
porn
Bay
stars in
Area.
disguise?
I don't know. I have no idea. How about the Giants or the Broncos as the other possible landing spots? Any of those sound anywhere? I mean,
Broncos, I can see that too. They need help. I mean, I'm not saying he's going to start. I'm just saying depth.
yeah, who are the Broncos going with at quarterback this year? I completely forgot, to be honest.
I don't know. No Russ.
Yeah, they obviously moved on from Russ. As of right now, the Broncos depth chart includes Jarrett Stidham and Ben DiNucci.
Hey, DiNucci's still there, upside down Denver, on his caps.
I can see just throw another guy in there. Just here's a Zach Wilson, play it out. I mean, Jarrett Stidham, I feel like he's solid enough.
He's
to hold
probably
that
solid
down.
Yeah, well, it shows you that seriously, there's 32 teams and there are not 18 quarterbacks that are stars.
No, there are not.
17 maybe.
Yeah, and so, yeah, those are some of the guys
And
that could possibly get traded.
For those who aren't keeping up, show you how bad it is, so to speak. Carson Wentz is now a backup quarterback for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah. Hey, man, like, this is...
They're recycling him because there's not enough quarterbacks. There's
Especially
just not enough.
Especially with that dude who... Carson Wentz has talent.
But he got the yips now. In my mind, once he got hurt, he was not the same guy. That 1 year that they went to the Super Bowl without him, he had a hell of a season until he got hurt. And from that point on, I mean, shoot, not only was Nick Folks in his mind, here comes Jalen Hurts. And he's just whipped.
Wildly inconsistent player.
He got the yips.
Just a wildly inconsistent player.
And let alone, since he married Meghan Markle, I mean, he hadn't been the same.
All right. Okay.
You haven't seen Prince Harry and Carson Wentz together in the same room. You have not seen them together. He's the same person.
He's got a point.
I mean, I cannot deny that.
I'm just saying.
That's fair enough.
One of them's a doppelganger. I'm not going to say you which one it is. Because I don't know.
You think they got a British royalty out here playing football? Getting concussions? I don't know about that one. Especially concussions with that dude. That dude was taking
All I
knocks.
know is neither one of them's Diana's child. Oh, I said it. Don't look nothing like Prince Charles. Neither one.
That's right. It's the Get Right. You're home for a little bit of monarchy scuttlebutt. You know what I mean? A little bit of the...
Gotta have the British angle in there somewhere.
A little bit the royalty talk in there.
Royal talk could be a sport from time to time.